Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. Take my ID and tell me, ask me what the fuck are you going to about it, okay? So when I was a wee superb _raccoon, but still superb. I was in the Navy. Recently 21, we decided to go to a bar that had a decent local cover band. So we show up and I present my ID. Grant you, clean cut and close shaved, I did not look 21. But my out-of-state ID was no good and all I had was my military ID. Doorman decides he can fuck with me. This is fake. I am keeping it. My eyes bugged out. Dude, that is a military ID. Give it back. Nope, mine now. $20 bucks or fuck off. I can't get back on base without it. I said. Then you better cough up $20 or fuck off. Oh, I see. This is a shakedown. Fuck off, hey? Okay. Cue malicious compliance. Buddy who drove and used state ID drove us back. We go into the officer of the day's office to report my lost/stolen ID. OOD is a crusty old bastard, but fair. Actually a Mustang, he takes orders from the president and God, and we are not sure of the president. He might tell him to fuck off if it is a stupid idea. He listens. My buddy backs my story. His eyes narrow in an evil way. Chief. Can you come up here? I got a present for you. I started to shake a little. Am I headed for a few days in the brig for losing my ID? Fuck. There goes any chance of a bump to E4. Seaman Raccoon here says the doorman at Joe's took his ID and wants $20. Pull a driver and one of those jarheads at the gate and go down there and sort it out. The chief looks at me like fresh meat. Come on you two, we are going for a ride. So we all pile in the van with a couple of Marines in BDU and sidearms. It is quiet on the way there. Chief don't look too happy. Can't believe I got a deal with this shit. Well, at least I don't have to sit at the desk all night. So we roll up. Place is pretty packed. Doorman don't look so tough as the chief stalks up to him like a storm cloud spitting lightning and two armed Marines flanking him. I am hanging back. Raccoon. This the guy with your ID? Yes, Chief. Chief gets up toe to toe with him. Chief is short and wide, but is built like a brick wall. Gym muscle doorman takes a step back, but dude has nowhere to go in the little entranceway. Give me his ID now, or I will start looking for it myself. ID is produced. Handed to me. Doorman ignored. Chief pulls the door open, looks at the room, motions for the Marines to make a hole to the bar, make it wide. They do so, calmly shouting to move people out of the way as the music and talk dies down. Chief grabs a chair, stands on it, then uses his parade ground voice. All active duty military. This site is now on the prohibited list. Pay your tab and get out. He gets down, walks out with Marines tailing him, and half the bar follows them out. Very few are active duty this far from base, but many are reserve or retired. They don't like shit like this either. Place went on the list and was still there when I transferred out 6M or so later. Yep. I fucked off. Hard and fast. Story 2. You want to have girls over all the time, okay, have it your way. The setup. I have a 2-bedroom house. I decided that I wanted to rent out the other bedroom in the house to make some money on space I wasn't really using after COVID. So I fixed up the place really nice. The tenant gets private, semi-attached bathroom. Bathroom is actually outside the bedroom, but I put up drapes between the bedroom and bathroom so tenant can walk between without me seeing. Common consumables. I pay for toilet paper, paper towels, laundry supplies, kitchen supplies, etc. I create the lease. The lease is very bare bones. It just says you get a room at this property. You pay this much per month. Landlord covers all utilities. Your lease is X months long. I created the ad. In the ad I mentioned how it's okay to have guests over, but keep it to no more than twice per month. I did not put this into the lease agreement. You can see where this is going. I do a showing for a prospect, T. I tell him the guest policy and he seems just fine with it. I do the rest of the showing and all seems grand. He signs the lease agreement and moves in. The problem. The first month is grand. Anyone can fool someone for a month. But eventually you return to bad habits. His bad habit was women. He would have women over 4 to 5 nights per week. I did not appreciate this. I pulled him aside to tell him, hey, you're having a lot of girls over. You need to reduce how many girls over, or, if you're willing to pay a bit extra for having all these girls over, I won't say a thing. He initially agrees with it. The next day, he calls me down and asks to speak with me at the dining room table. It's T and his girl do jour. GT begins arguing, how can you ask for more money when that's not in the lease agreement? You can't ask for that. I told him the guest policy was in the ad and that we spoke about it when he came here. He said, yeah, but you can't ask for that. If it's not in the lease agreement you can't do that. The guest policy isn't in the lease agreement either, so I pay rent. I can have over whoever whenever I want. G piped in, you just need to take the L on this one and write better lease agreements. I replied to G, you're not on the lease agreement, so I don't give a shit what you think about it. I turned to T, it was in the ad. We also talked about it when you came here. You knew about this. T replied, whoa man, calm down. It's just 6 months man. That's my lease term. I'll be out of your hair in 6 months. I replied, why can't you stay at her place? G said, that's none of your business. Shut up, G. I don't care what you think. You want a problem, T? You got one. This is not cool and you know it. Why does she have to be here 5 nights a week? She practically lives here. I signed a lease with you, T, not with her. Why is she here? He shrugged, can't help it. Not in the lease agreement man. That's what lease agreements are for. I was infuriated. We talked about this. He's choosing to follow the lease agreement. Okay, fine, what's a guy to do? I want him gone. I don't want T and G teaming up against me in my own house. They walked upstairs and turned on the loud music in their room. Later in the evening, G was downstairs cooking something on the stove by herself using my pots and pans. She's cooking for herself in my house. She's not even a tenant but she sure is acting like one. G tried striking up a friendly conversation with me, but I just gave her absolute silence for 10 minutes while I cooked. I took my food upstairs. This is war. I'm going to follow the lease agreement to the letter. If I advertised a feature in the ad but it wasn't in the lease agreement, that thing is gone. The compliance. Every day I took something away. I first started by removing all the common consumables from the house. He texted me later, man, you removed all the consumables? You need to come down on the rent. I replied, not in the lease agreement. He said, it don't got to be like this. I removed the drapes between his room and the private bathroom. I took away the chairs for the dining room table. I then shut off the clothes washer and dryer, circuit breakers were in my room, and left taped up the location of a local laundromat. I also became an absolutely filthy roommate. I didn't clean anything. I left bags of garbage wherever I felt like. I never cleaned the kitchen and left the sink full of dishes. Please man, can you clean up? No. I had maid service. Cancelled that. I informed him of the change. Can you come down on the rent, man? Not in the lease agreement. You agreed to a rental price. Simone. I turned off the breaker to the stove and left out a wall outlet single pot electric plate for him to use. I turned off the microwave. Not in the lease agreement either. I actually started feeling bad for him. G started coming around less and less as I made the living situation worse and worse. Finally, he texted me, "Do you want me to move out?" I replied, "Yes, when are you leaving my house?" He said, "End of the month. You'll let me break the lease?" I replied, "Of course." He left at the end of the month. I had my house back. I made for sure to make my next lease agreement way more specific about everything. Story 3. Compulsory after school running in November. Just read a post on here that reminded me of something I did at school. I'll put a link to that post in the Story 4. Karma is a bitch and so was she. Cross posted elsewhere. It being Christmas time reminded me of story from quite a few years ago, from when I was a bartender in a corporate-style cookie-cutter restaurant. I mostly worked nights, but had one regular mid-shift on Fridays. We were always super busy at the bar for lunch on Fridays and usually had quite a few of the mall workers coming in to eat then head back to work. Nearly every Friday the same smug, borderline rude lady came in for lunch. Every time she paid exact change. Zero tip. Maybe half the time she would complain over some minor inconvenience, and more than a few times got a comped meal. The more I had to wait on her, the more indignant and pissed I got. So around Christmas time I was out and about in the mall buying for family and friends. Picked out something nice for my girlfriend at the time, a sheer top which I thought would look amazing on her. Decently priced with it being on sale too. Walking up to the cashier, I was a bit surprised to run into, resting bitch face. Whatever. In street clothes I felt like she barely registered who I was, or maybe she really didn't care who was at her register, maybe both. So, I hand her a $20 bill. She examines it for a moment. Turned it over twice. Held it up to the light even. Then, out comes the counterfeit pen marker. Thinking to myself a bit excessive, no. Change should have been around $1 and change. Surprisingly, she hands out $81 plus change. She calls next in line, so I stepped to the side for a moment in contemplation. I could honestly feel the devil on one shoulder and angel on the other. Took me a moment or two, but I finally let my moral compass win and stepped back in front of the register. I nicely explained that there was a mistake made, but before I could continue she shot me down and briskly told me in a semi-professional tone to ktv. So. I did. The way I look at it. All those lost tips and the money she just gifted me was just karma. Sucked to be her I guess. Story 5. I can't show you my ticket, you just forbade me from getting it. Hi gang. Backstory. After having gone through a rather difficult period in my life, my GF told me last weekend that it was time for me to try and cheer up a little and let's go to Zwolle, which is a Dutch town in the Netherlands. Just for a bit of sightseeing and maybe also to visit a friend of hers to return something she had borrowed for a while. Well, we had a great day. Plenty of things to see, nice atmosphere in the city, and when we visited her friend's place things really clicked. We were even invited to dinner, which we happily accepted. Having remembered seeing a supermarket not too far away, I immediately suggested that we sponsor the wine, and it was a pleasant evening. We also discovered that this friend lived relatively close to a bus stop, which made things all the more easy. We left around 2000 hours and as luck would have it didn't even have to wait for our train. However, this train ride turned out to be nothing but absurd. All of this played out in the Netherlands. Conversations have obviously been translated. If you don't do as I say, I'll have to fine you. Okay, then. At this time the train isn't really crowded, so we find a place to sit and end up on a four-seater, as I like to call it, 2 benches with a small table in between near the window which provide room for 4 people. We both go sit near the window and chatter a bit when we finally notice a weird pamphlet on the table reading something like phone-free compartment. But neither of us gives it much thought. We chatter a bit until the next station is announced, the one where we need to get off and hop onto another train that will actually take us home. My GF tells me that she's going to check the schedule to see where we need to go, and she grabs her phone. I thank her and then I suddenly remember that I have read something about those flyers the week before, so I grab my phone to check a local newspaper. Suddenly things got completely absurd. Madam, you need to put that phone away, someone calls out and before we know the conductor is standing next to us while addressing my GF. We both look up surprised. Why? She asks. This is a phone-free zone, you're not allowed to use your phone here. If you want to use your phone you need to go sit somewhere else, he answers. What kind of idiot came up with that stupid idea? I ask him and it actually looks as if he took offense to my comment. This was thought up by two students who want to help improve the world, the conductor answers. Instead of looking at your phone all the time you could be interacting with other people which is also much healthier. I look at my GF, she looks at me, I wink and tell the conductor, you want me to talk to her? Everyone knows that talking to women is scary, which is almost immediately met with hard laughter behind us. My GF retorts, yeah, I don't want to talk to him, all I want to do is check the NS app to see what platform I need for getting my connection. You'll have to do that somewhere else, or you could ask me, equals typo, the conductor answers. This is lousy customer service, my GF retorts while this dude is starting to look angry. It is what it is, either you two put your phones away or I'll have to issue a fine. Fine, I snap while I put my phone away when I suddenly realize something. I grin and once again wink at my GF while patting my phone which is now in my pocket. My patting also suddenly made her realize the obvious. Now that we got this out of the way, can I see your tickets please? The conductor asks. Nope, I tell him, you just told me not to and I don't want to risk getting fined. Now visibly angry, what the heck is that supposed to mean? I did no such thing, you don't have a ticket, is that it? He snaps at me. I again pat my chest, I don't travel that often so I always purchase my tickets using the app. Which is on my phone, and you just told me that I can't use it. So. I can't show you my ticket, I tell him. The guy looks flabbergasted. No. This is different. You need to show me your ticket, he says. My GF chimes in, so that you can write him a fine for using his phone? No thank you. You can't apply the rules like you please, and you just clearly told us that we're not allowed to use our phones, she said. I continue, and what guarantees do I have that you won't just fine me later anyway? You obviously like to apply the rules as you please. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now arriving at Arnhem Station, a voice suddenly says over the intercom. Oh, that's my stop, my GF says and gets up to walk towards the exit. Cool, mine too, I say and follow her while ignoring the sputtering from the conductor. We caught our connection in the nick of time, despite having to search for the platform, and that was the end of that weird ordeal. Aftermath. Thing is, I did get a little upset over all that nonsense. Because this isn't a common thing and as it turned out this mobile-free zone is merely a test case that's applied on a few local train routes. I decided to complain to customer service but, also listened to my GF, we didn't make it personal by calling out that specific conductor, maybe he just had a really crappy day, but we just complained about the whole ordeal. Today we actually got an answer. Dear customer, we're sorry to hear that you didn't feel comfortable during your train ride and that you considered the smartphone-free zone as a decrease in customer service. That was never the intent of this test case. People are suggested not to use their phones but this is not something we enforce because, as you mentioned yourself, people may need to check their connections or may need to consult other news regarding their trip. For which we actually encourage the use of the NS app. If someone did try to enforce this then we'd like to hear back from you. NS customer service. We didn't respond. Now my GF says that I probably should but I dunno. So I figured I'd dump this on Reddit instead. Equals dash equals dash equals dash equals dash equals. TL, DR. NS, Nederlandse Spoorwegen, conducted an experiment in local trains, mobile-free zones, where we accidentally ended up sitting. We ignored it, also because we never really use our phones when we're together, until my GF decided to check how late our connection was leaving. Suddenly a conductor with an obvious attitude shows up, warns my GF and ends up telling us that we have to stop using our phones, otherwise he'll give us a fine. So I put my phone away. When he asks me for my ticket I tell him that I won't show it to him since my ticket is on my phone and I'm not allowed to use it. He tries to double down, after which my GF snaps that we can't even be sure that he'll just fine us later. So he can forget about us cooperating here. Our destination got announced, so we just make our way to the exit while ignoring him. I did write a complaint to customer service, without referencing the conductor. You can see the answer above. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.